Hello, and welcome to the Vitruvian Club. If you haven't watched the companion video to this one, titled Anima Mundi, I recommend watching that first, because this video is an analysis of the lyrics of the song in that video. So this is going to make a whole lot more sense if you check that out first. And I recommend also checking out the first song in this album, My Valentine, because it ties in to this song in a way. Anyway, let's get to the song. Anima Mundi is Latin for soul of the world. And this song is very much an appeal to the spiritual aspect of nature. And I chose this specific location that I'm in because this is a place I've always had a very close affinity to throughout my life growing up around these parts. So I figured it would be fitting to express my love of nature in a place that I spent so much time in, a place that's brought so much happiness to me. To get into the lyrics, I spent some time alone. In fact, most of my time. I got my sanity. It's on the borderline of what's acceptable. Hope that's all right with you. Well, in my experience and through my observation of others, I find that those who have a particular connection to nature often have that connection at an expense to connection to other people. And I don't know if it's like a chicken or the egg scenario. Like, is it that connection to nature that distances you from people, or is it your dissatisfaction with people that drives you to nature? I don't know the answer to that. But I do know the reality of people who are different kind of being ostracized and pushed away to the natural world, but finding comfort to it. And when I'm asking if that's all right with you, you can interpret that as an interpersonal communication. I kind of view it as a direct appeal to nature, where you kind of asking this impersonal force, this impersonal being, if it's all right that you are the way you are, if maybe other people have something to say about the things you do or the way you conduct yourself. But nature isn't going to really say anything. The buzzing bumblebees, the bears in their dens, and the birds singing loud and proud, they don't really care about who you are. You're just another creature kind of existing. And there's great comfort in that when we exist in a world where there is judgment, there is this knowledge of good and evil, which isn't a bad thing. But I think that people often misalign their discernment, let's say that, to people who don't deserve it. And nature doesn't do that. And I think that's really important to clarify. Anyway, we got the chorus coming up. I feel the soul of the world deep in my bones. Oh, it burns. A very kind of visceral image there. And, you do feel something when you're in nature. That can't be denied. Something unique, something that you can't find elsewhere. You can't find it in a personal relationship. You don't really find it going to church. It's here. in the natural world, right? And I guess if we want to be, scientific about it, that is where humans also come from, right? So it is in our bones, right? The natural world, literally, the calcium that builds up our bones comes from, let's say, the milk we drink, and the milk we drink comes from the cows that are eating the grass of the world, right? So scientifically, it's certainly in our bones as well as spiritually. Every dog has its day, and every day fades away. We are slaves to our nature. Yeah, this is I guess this is a critique of humanity by kind of revealing our primal tendencies that we often ignore. I don't want to say ignore. We often provide a veneer for. Maybe that's a good way to say it. Where this vying for supremacy, or vying for power, and vying for resources we declare is something that it's not, when it's really just a byproduct of our natural tendencies, of a natural evolutionary selection of competition. And I think it's important to acknowledge that when we act that way, we're really not acting any different than the dog who has his day. And well, everything's going to fade away. That power that you have is going to degrade. I think of historic figures like Napoleon Bonaparte and Alexander the Great, or Genghis Khan, these great conquerors who are dead and their empires don't exist anymore. You can argue, but the historical impact in which they had in the world is still felt. Sure, that's fair. But the damage in which they invoked on their fellow men, their fellow people, and the world, is that something that is worth it when you're on your deathbed? I don't know. I haven't been on my deathbed, but it's something to think about. All right, verse 2 is, what is verse 2? I like to be outside. Sorry, no. I like to work real hard. I like to sweat it out. And at the end of the day, I like to swim around in a relaxing pond with all the fish looking on at me. That's a long one. But yeah, this is an appeal to nature again, and that I think a lot of the modern world kind of isolates us from what we evolved to be happy with, let's say. To work hard, to do physical activities, right? To enjoy the presence of nature, to be just work really hard, and at the end of the day, relax in that pond with the fish looking on at you, right? There's something very, very appealing about that simplistic lifestyle and that naturalistic lifestyle that feels right. and it's something that we are really restricted from experiencing. You have to set time aside to do your exercise for the day, and then, oh, you got to go drive to the beach or go to the pool. Oh, you have to go look at the fish in the aquarium, right? It's all these things that were just present in our lives are now disconnected. And that's uncomfortable, for sure. The next line, and now I'm looking up. Now they're now they're looking up. How does it go? Now I'm looking up. Yeah, I'm looking up at the mountaintops into the stars above. They taught me a lot. There must be billions there, maybe trillions there. Oh, they make me feel small. And I like to tie this to... Oh, that's a dead end. I like to tie this to the previous line of the fish looking on at me, because it's interesting to think of, I guess, animal intelligence, right? Like these creatures that we spent so much time with that we're kind of disconnected now from. So we have the hubris, and maybe that's somewhat validated because nothing else is doing what humans are doing. That's fair, right? We're very unique in that regard. However, I think our uniqueness allows us to neglect the interesting nature of our other fellow beings. And so, like, what is a fish thinking when it's looking up at us, right? These superior beings, right? And makes you think if maybe they're thinking a similar thing as to what we do when we're looking up at these grand mountains and these grand stars that just fill us with awe, right? Looking on at these endless lights in the sky, and these, endless worlds, these endless possibilities. It's very overwhelming. Like, is there something else out there, or are we all there is, right? That's a very uncomfortable thing to be speculating on. And in a way, the fish almost have it easier because they can see that there is something greater than them, and that's us. And, well, that's unfortunate for them, considering what we do to them. So let's hope that if there is something greater than us, they've got it figured out better, right? We get the course again, and then we can go to the bridge. My city boy, where my mother nature's son, my heart is fluctuating so much the sun and moon are one. And this is something I've particularly been grappling with for the past couple of years when I moved to the city out of living in closer proximity to nature. And at first it was really difficult, right? This is one of the reasons I wrote this song, is that you feel like you lose a part of yourself. As I spent time in the city, I grew to enjoy it. I meet good people, I find good communities, and you gain hopefully a better appreciation of humanity. There's also some not so nice things in the city. So I guess you get the best and the worst of humanity in a high concentration of humanity, right? And my mind is fluctuating between these two worlds, between this kind of negative view and this positive view. It's like, oh, well, now I view this positively, maybe I view this negatively, where if I'm in the wilderness, I don't experience other people as much. and that's not a good thing, right? And then if we want to get to something deeper, and we did this with the last song, that it was this uncomfortableness was an indication of something deeper. So this uncomfortableness of this longing for connection in a natural world, and longing for a connection in a human world, and being satisfied in one and satisfied in the other, it's all pointing towards something. It's pointing towards towards a feeling, towards being accepted and being satisfied wherever you are. And well, it's a really difficult thing, and I've rambled a lot about the nature of this whole video rather. So if you can tell, this is something that I certainly grapple with, and it's probably something I'll always grapple with, is am I the city boy, or am I Mother Nature's son, right? And that's why I say now the season's changing, my thoughts are rearranging, because my perceptions and my feelings about this disparity are always changing, and they perhaps will always be changing, right? Maybe you'll never be satisfied completely where you are, given our current circumstances, so you must make do with where you are, right? At least that's how I try to think. Turn around. And Anima Mundi within and without me is kind of a callback to what I was saying before about this really deep connection in which we do have to the natural world, factually and also experientially. And if we want to go to the outro, which we will, trapped in permanent servitude, that's all right with me if it's all right with you. So this is a bit of a lamentation where we can't escape where we come from, and we can't escape this situation that we're in, where we're kind of removed from our source of origin, and how uncomfortable that is. But that's all right with me if it's all right with you. And I don't know how to interpret that. That one can be interpreted either way, right? It can go to I guess an anthropocentric route, where as humans we can unite together and enjoy each other's companies at the expense of the world in which we came from, or we can return back to the world in which we came from and abandon everything that we've created, for better or for worse, in hopes that it will return us to greater satisfaction than what we have in the modern world, which for a lot of people doesn't really seem to be working. Yeah, so this is Anima Mundi. I ought to end it here because this video is going quite long, but thank you so much if you got to the end of this and you were able to get something of value from this, as I kind of do these vlogs impromptu. I don't really plan anything out, and I guess that's at the expense of coherence and structure, but it allows for more authenticity, and I'd like to have that authenticity. I'd like to demonstrate what it's like to think through challenging things on the spot, because I think it's important to not just have everything memorized, and to be able to explain things from the heart as opposed to from a prompt. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Hello again, a brief postscript. in accordance with the impromptu nature of these videos, I had completely forgotten to mention the companion book to this song, which is To a God Unknown by John Steinbeck. And I'll talk about that briefly. Really, really great book. I recommend it if you are someone who's interested in an appeal to nature. A person who, the main character of this book, Joseph Wayne, comes from a lineage of people who have a very strange connection to nature and the land in which they take care of. And this is often at odds with those around him. This novel delves into kind of this very real spiritual connection to nature that some people have, in opposition to a more refined and humanistic spirituality like Christianity is the example that is kind of in opposition to the main character's perspective in the novel. So it spoke to me personally, and I think it does a good job at capturing, like I said, the power of this connection to nature and to a land in which you feel at home in, such as the land in which I'm walking through right now. So check it out. It's good. John Steinbeck is always a good time. Very, very smart man. Anyway, goodbye again.